everybody, Tekking101 here, and on today's episode, we will be discussing another one of the big ones. A question that has plagued not just One Piece fans for a long time, but I dare say a question that has plagued humanity as a whole since the time that we've climbed out of the primordial ooze, figured out fire and the wheel, and how to sharpen a stick to hunt the gazelle down on the epic plains of Africa. The question is, drum roll please, who did Dragon bone to make Luffy? Yeah, I know, it's a hard question to answer, particularly for Dragon, it's hard because, okay, perhaps a more eloquent way to put that is, who is Luffy's mother? Alright, maybe that's a little bit more better way to phrase it, a little bit more PG. Who's Luffy's mom, alright? And of course, this has been something that's been theorized and debated for a while, pretty much ever since the beginning of the story, really, but it really got kicked into high gear when Dragon was revealed. Like, this is Monkey D. Dragon, he's Luffy's father, so the fandom, of course, went like, alright, well, all to the deck, mateys, we need to figure out who his mom is now. It's the dad, so we gotta know about the mom at some point in the story. I think I find myself in that camp. I think there's a camp of people that say, well, since Oda went out of his way to explain who Luffy's dad is, obviously we're going to find out about the mom. There's been debate whether or not the mom is still alive, but even if she isn't, I would still like to know about who she is. Now, I'm not in the idea that we have to know about all of the Straw Hats' parents, like all of their biological parents. There's people that are out there that are still going on about how, who's Nami's real parents. We need to find out about that. I don't think we do, really. Bellamere was her stepmother, and I think that's, good enough there. We don't need another backstory with Nami there. And I think it's all because of Sanji. Sanji is the one that started all this, where we find out about Sanji's long-lost parents that we didn't know anything about up to this point, but are now a big part of the story. And I think there's even people that, because Wano is coming up next, they're like, okay, well, in Wano, we're gonna find out about Zoro's long-lost parents that we didn't know anything about, but now are a big part of the story. I feel like that would just be rehashing way too quick on Oda's part. Like, alright, this arc was all about Sanji's long-lost parents, and now the very next arc that the Straw Hats find themselves in is all gonna be about Zoro's long-lost parents, and we're just gonna keep going down the line. I don't subscribe to that. I really don't think we need to know about all of the Straw Hats' biological parents, although I will admit I am kind of curious about the parents that raised Frankie. Just, you have to be, just inherently, but I don't think we're gonna find out about them. But in the case with Luffy, I feel like that's an exception because his dad was already revealed. Frankie's parents, we know nothing about either one of them. Nami's biological parents, same deal. Alright, Robin! But hey, by the way, her mom was revealed, so Robin's dad, I'm kind of curious about that, where that might be going. But as for Luffy's mom, just to give you the quick answer, we just don't know who she is. It's something that Oda has referenced before, that has actually occurred twice, from what my research has really shown me, that Oda has directly referenced Luffy's parents, one time in an SBS that we'll get to, and another time in an interview that he conducted where he directly mentioned Luffy's mother, and that's going to be that was the one that really drove the fandom into high gear, like shift into 6th gear, because this is going to be a big one. But I'll tell you something, even in that interview that Oda gave and he was discussing Luffy's mom, he was kind of like, there was like a hesitant tone where he was like, I don't really know if I'm going to do anything with it yet. And let me tell you something, I would be fine if it's like she passed away a long time ago, and she's not going to appear in the actual present storyline. This isn't like Naruto, where, Naruto's mother, Kushina, became like a really prevalent force for, teaching Naruto about the Nine-Tailed Fox because she was the previous Jinchuriki and she was like appearing in spirit form to Naruto. I don't think it's going to go down that road with Luffy and his mom or anything like that. From what we can see, Luffy doesn't even really care much about his dad. He's very non-interested in who Dragon really is at all. Even when seeing his face for the first time, he was like, that's my dad? I don't look anything like him, huh? It didn't seem like he was shocked at the appearance of Dragon, but he wasn't like, Daddy? You know, it wasn't like that. So that's not what we're going to get later down the line. But I would still want a flashback with, you know, the circumstances around Luffy's birth. I think as the main character of the story, I think we need to see that. We got that with Naruto. We got that with Bleach. You know, the main character's birth. You know, the circumstances for how their parents met. You know, and just like where the legend began, essentially. Luffy's story started. You know, what kind of person she was like. Because Luffy doesn't really take after Dragon all that much, if we're being honest. I mean, he does in the sense of he's a pirate that's, you know, starting a war, basically, challenging the world government's reign and changing the people's perspective, you know, even though if Luffy's not directly trying to do that, he is succeeding at that. Of course, Dragon became a revolutionary, not a pirate, but Dragon was somebody that also is confronting the way the world is set up and trying to shake it down to its core. So they're similar in that respect, but just in terms of, like, their appearance, their personality. Dragon is much more stoic, much more serious. You know, in the Funimation dub's voice, he's basically Batman. If you haven't heard Dragon's English dub voice, it's Batman. It's great, okay? You know, and Luffy is, of course, much more... Luffy's a special kid, you know, he's much more out there and expressive in his emotions and everything like that. Dragon's much more reserved and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, they don't really click all that well in terms of, like, personality. So perhaps Luffy got some of his personality from his mother. That would be something else interesting to look at. Was his mother a member of the D clan? We know Dragon is a D, but, you know, Goldie Roger was Will of D, and also Porcus D Rouge, and then they, you know, got together and had Ace. So, you know, two Ds could make another D, basically. Okay, that cannot be taken in any other way. Got it? Not a single other way you could take that. But anyway, yeah. So let's go into discussing the stuff that Oda actually said about Luffy's parents, and then let's go into some fan theories, and I'll tell you what I think, and then we could spend the rest... You could go in the comments below and leave your 2 cents about that. But just to give you, right out of the gate, my opinion on the matter... I don't think Luffy's mother is any character that has been named in the story yet. That's my stance on it. I'll expand on that a little bit more, but any named character we've already been introduced to in the story, I don't accept the fact that they could be Luffy's mother. Okay, so let's first get into the SBS. So this was an SBS that was posed in Volume 44, also known as the volume featuring Robin's awesome booty. So that's one of the first volumes I ever purchased. So this is an SBS question he got. Oda-sensei, I've got a serious question. Ooh, seriously. Oda's not that great at answering serious questions. A lot of times it just devolves to boobs. Aren't you ever going to draw Luffy's father? And this is from Mr. Uni, who is a 16-year-old. And all Oda responds to that, and keep in mind this is Volume 44. This is at the climax of the Enies Lobby arc. His father, I already drew him. He'll be in the next volume. Look forward to it. And of course, in the next volume, Volume 45, Luffy's father, Dragon, did make an appearance as Garp explained, you know, Dragon to Luffy and who he is and head of the revolutionaries and everything like that. Alright, now that might seem like a very straightforward question. However, there's a few things to keep in mind here. This, what I just read from, was the official English translation of the Tankobon. This is the Viz Media publication, alright? And it just says specifically... I've got a serious question, aren't you ever going to draw Luffy's father? There's been other versions of this I've seen, you know, popping up online with different translations. Subtle translation differences, but very important ones. The most common one is this. Oda-sensei, I have a serious question. Will you ever draw Luffy's parents? So not just referencing Luffy's father, but both of his parents. And then Oda responds to it with, his parents? Well, I think you'll be pleased in the next volume. Get excited. Now, I believe that was from the One Piece Wiki. In fact, I know that one was from the One Piece Wiki. So that's something that's a big deal, because he didn't just say parent. I mean, he didn't just say father, he said parents. So that were to imply that Oda is going to put not just Dragon in the next volume 45, but also Luffy's mom. And that also sprung some theories whenever Dragon was revealed, the White Island, the White Land, you see other revolutionaries in the background as Dragon's there. So people start picking out the revolutionaries in the background. It's like, well, if Luffy's dad is a revolutionary, then his mom might be a revolutionary too. She might be in the background. We don't know. And hey, Oda has certainly done this kind of stuff before. Perfect example, look at Rayleigh. Rayleigh first appeared in Buggy's flashback way back in the Orangetown arc in, like, volume 2 of the story. Back then, nobody thought this guy was gonna be important. He's just some random dude in Buggy's flashback yelling at him. Later on down the story, turns out, no, that was the first mate. That was Rayleigh. That is a very important character in the One Piece story. That was the guy that was responsible for teaching Luffy hockey and everything. This is a big deal, okay? Rayleigh, big deal. By the way, if you want to buy this shirt, there's a link below. Yeah, so Oda has certainly done that before. Introduce characters kind of in the background. There's a little bit, oh, that character has an interesting design. Don't know their name, don't know what their abilities are or what their story is. They might not even have any lines of dialogue. They're just back there. He's also done this with Shanks's crew. He's done this with Whitebeard's crew. He did this with the Spade Pirates, who are like Ace's previous pirate crew. Like, there's people in the background that might appear later on as like a big deal. So with that being said, we get this image that I found, and this image also has a different translation of that whole thing, where this one says, "I have a serious question, won't you draw Luffy's parents?" And Oda's response to it is, his parents, they've already been drawn, and they'll appear in the next volume. Okay, I'm starting to think that this one might have been changed up a little bit just to get more hype for this theory, because this person is obviously trying to, like, point out, like, oh, well, both of Luffy's parents are appearing. So I have just read off to you 3 different translations of this SBS. Now, I can't speak Japanese, I can't read Japanese, so I can't look at this and, like, look at the raws of the Japanese SBS and be like, okay, this word definitely means father, not parents, or he definitely said just the father, not both of them. I can't do that. So if someone else wants to go out there and do that, I would be eternally grateful, because there's 3 different translations here. But going back to this image again, let's just look at it. Below we have the image. The one at the bottom, is from chapter 593. This was post Marineford. This is when Dragon was speaking with Ivankov over, like, the white transponder snail. But these characters also appear in the chapter in volume 45 that Oda mentioned. So this was already referenced, okay? They're just, once again, like I said, they're characters that appear, like, volumes and volumes between each other, but they have the same design, so Oda might actually explain who these people are later on. Now, keep in mind, a member of the Revolutionary Army is Ivankov, who has the capabilities of, changing people's genders, so that's also something we're going to get to later. People think that, oh, it might be a male character, but might be gender flips, and that's... I don't like that idea, I just don't think Oda's going to go that route with it, because Ivankov had a flashback involving Dragon where they were discussing Dragon's family. After Luffy explained to Ivankov who his dad was, Ivankov, freaked out and then remembered a moment when Ivankov and Dragon were at Baltigo, and Ivankov brings up, I always notice that you keep staring off to the east, Dragon. And Dragon's just like, really? I never noticed. And Ivankov's like, is it some kind of family instinct? Do you have, family back in the east, perhaps? And then Dragon's, of course, just like, shut up, Ivankov, no one asked you, blah, blah, blah. So that would imply that Ivankov didn't directly know Luffy's mother, and if Luffy's mother was a revolutionary, you'd think that Ivankov would definitely have known Luffy's mother. So that seems to imply it's more of like a Roger kind of thing. Roger, met Rouge off on some island. I believe it was in the West Blue. Was it in the West Blue or the South Blue? One of the two. And then had sex with her, and then Roger left, and then that's when Ace was born, 20 months later. It wasn't like Rouge was part of Roger's ship or anything like that. That's not how it went down. So it's possible that the same thing kind of happened with Dragon. Also, I was trying to break down the ages here, like how old Dragon is, and we just don't know. We know Luffy's age, he's 19 now, and we know Garp's age, he's 78. So, Garp is Dragon's father. We know Garp would have been 59 when Luffy was born. So if you run the numbers there, if Dragon was in like his, I think Dragon kind of looks like he's in his 50s, maybe very late 40s, early 50s, and that's possible. If Garp was like in his early 20s when Dragon was born, then that would put, Dragon somewhere around his early mid-50s, something like that, and that would make sense. Of course, calculating the age for the father doesn't make any sense. Dragon could have been like in his 30s, he could have been like 35, and his wife could have been 25, so you can't really calculate it out that much there, figuring out like how old Luffy's mom would be. I would say, given Luffy being 19, his mother would have to be at least in her early 40s at bare minimum there. I don't think Oda's gonna explain, like, oh yeah, Luffy's mother gave birth to him when she was like 15 or 16 or anything like that. I think Oda's gonna kind of stay away from that, because then you think about Big Mom. Big Mom's whole thing is she has like 85 kids, and Oda's like, oh yeah, she started giving birth when she was 20. I think Oda kind of played it safe with that one. We don't want to have a character, it's like, yeah, she started popping kids out when she was like 15. I think that would have been a little weird to be like in like mid-teenage years, kind of weird to have a character like, so it's like, oh, at 20, that's when Big Mom started having babies, and maybe like other characters he's going to keep that general rule. Maybe not, but I'm just saying. But for my personal opinion, I'm going to say that the English translation is correct in the fact that Oda just specified the father was going to appear, and that would be Dragon, not referring to the mother there. Now, with that being said, there is another interview that Oda did. This wasn't in an SBS or anything. This was like an actual like a voice interview he did, and the question he was asked here was by John Irons. What is Luffy's mother like? Was she beautiful? What happened to her? Did she die when Luffy was a baby? Alright, so kind of a loaded question there, kind of a lot to unpack, but Oda responds with, I think she's alive. I'm still thinking hard about this, laughs, but if she does appear in the story, then she'll be a very tough-looking woman, and strict. There's no way that she's a beautiful mother. She's got this typical middle-aged woman's permed hair. Now, look, part of this makes me wonder whether or not Oda has... I'm sure he's thought about it before, but I don't know if he's ever put a lot of thought into it. The way he's expressing it there seems to be like, I don't know if I'm going to introduce her in the story or not. I'm kind of on the, border of that. I might have not have put a lot of thought into it. I might have, considered like a basic design for her, but nothing like all that, nothing I've really put a lot of thought into, essentially. And this would actually be something really interesting if it was like, a character in the background on Baltigo, like one of these characters that we see, like right here, that girl with the feather in her hat. Oda could have been like, alright, I'll draw someone in the background that might be Luffy's mom, and if I decide to go that way with the story, then I'll include her, and I'll like, oh wow, yeah, she was drawn all the way back then, but we didn't find out until now that it was actually Luffy's mother the whole time. And then it'll seem like foreshadowing. Or he could just leave it as it is, or design like, oh no, that's not Luffy's mom, that's just another character I just came up with. So Oda might be like, alright, I'm gonna play the field and see where I'm gonna go with this. The idea of Luffy's mother being very strict, like a tough kind of woman, it would make sense if she was a revolutionary, but like I said, if she was a revolutionary, why wouldn't Ivankov already know about her? Why wouldn't all the revolutionaries know about her? Even if Dragon never told anyone who she really was, the fact that she's palling around with the revolutionary army and she's a big part of this organization, you kind of want to make sure the people that are in your revolutionary army are on the up and up, that are dedicated to the cause, that aren't like secret spies or anything. So background checks are probably a must. It would just be weird, and Ivankov was a high-ranking member, so it's very weird that Ivankov wouldn't know. So I don't think Luffy's mom is like a revolutionary, like right now palling around with Dragon. Baltigo, their base was kind of, they had to vacate it because of Blackbeard, but I don't think she's a revolutionary with Dragon at the moment. But yeah, her being like a tough kind of woman though, I don't know, because I guess then Luffy really takes after Garp, because Dragon isn't really like Luffy personality-wise. The description Oda just gave about like the potential for Luffy's mother isn't like Luffy really in any way. So I guess Luffy just, it skips a generation, and Luffy takes more after Garp's personality, I suppose. And Garp is the one that raised him. It's kind of interesting, but I think you can kind of figure out where it went. Like, Dragon and his wife meet up, and they have Luffy, his wife gives birth to Luffy. And perhaps Garp, because he was upset with how Dragon turned out, Garp kind of just like took Luffy away, or maybe Dragon's like, I can't raise this child, or we can't raise this child, there's some reason for it, I'm leading this revolutionary, or Dragon just left him with Garp, Garp didn't even have a choice in the matter, like, Garp's like, damn it, why do people keep leaving me their kids? First Roger, and now my own son, damn it, I'm not a freaking daycare! Okay? And of course, Garp, trains Luffy up when he was a kid, tough love sort of thing, maybe taking it to an extra. Like, there's debates now whether it's acceptable to, like, hit your kid, like spanking is acceptable or something. Garp kind of took that to the next level, throwing Luffy in, like, a jungle for 2 weeks. Like, all right, Luffy, if you get eaten by a tiger, you lose. If you survive, you win, and all this other stuff he did to Luffy when he was a child that really toughened him up. Of course, Garp eventually dropped him off at Dadan's place in the mountains along with Ace, and then that's where Luffy, like, that's the part of the flashback that we're aware of. And for all intents and purposes, Dadan is basically Luffy's mom. I mean, if we're just being, like, how he grew up and who was, like, the strong female, like, the matriarch in his in his eyes, that would be Dadan, even though Luffy didn't really listen to Dadan all that much. That was basically Luffy's mom, and when Luffy and Ace left, she was in tears, so, you gotta kind of feel for her there. But as for Luffy's biological mother, I would like her to be kind of goofy and silly, kind of like with Luffy's personality. I found this piece of fan art today when I was doing research for this video, and I think this is just hilarious. Garp, Dragon is this really serious revolutionary dude, and Luffy's mom is the one that's just like, yeah, let's do this crazy stuff, and then, like, holding baby Luffy and stuff like that. That would be hilarious. And I know that's the exact opposite of what Oda just stated in the interview, but you never know with Oda. You just never know. He could decide to change it up. He could have been playing with us in that interview. He could have just been like, oh yeah, Luffy's mom totally gonna be a serious, no nonsense, not a very beautiful kind of lady, very stern sort of person. That's going to be Luffy's mom. And then he could flip it on its side and be like, actually no, Luffy's mom's going to be this really goofy character. Just kind of, not really lying to us, but just kind of like, I want you to be surprised. I don't want to tell you everything I'm going to do, and I'm sure that's a question that maybe Oda wasn't prepared for. Maybe, I don't know the circumstances of that interview. I don't know if he knew the questions or anything, and he might have just come up with that. He's like, oh, no, or maybe he prepared himself, like, people are going to ask me about Luffy's mom. I'm sure he's gotten that question before plenty of times, so he kind of came up with like it's going to be like this. So you never know. As for a couple of other fan theories, Makino being Luffy's mother, because Makino was another kind of very strong female influence in Luffy's life growing up at Fuchsia Village before Garp, took him to live with Dadan. Makino was kind of like his motherly figure. She was very kind. I don't think that's the case, though. I would like to not think that Makino is Luffy's mom. I think that's too obvious of a choice there. People have thrown out theories involving Crocodile, and if you've never heard of this theory before, the Crocodile is Luffy's mom theory, you're probably sitting there right now like, wait, huh? Crocodile's Luffy's... Alright, I have 7 problems with that. The basic gist of it, and I've already referenced this in my Crocodile's secret video that I did, is... Crocodile used to be a woman, and Ivankov changed his gender, and that's the whole thing involving Luffy's mother. I discredit that theory entirely, and I even mentioned it in the video. So Luffy just beat the ever-loving shit out of his mom at Alabasta, and it was just like, no emotion involving that. No one ever knew the case. It was, and then later on in Impel Down, it just doesn't make any sense to me at all. Like, beyond that you could say, Crocodile has black hair, and Luffy has black hair, and they have scars, and they both wanted to be Pirate King, and the age is... Crocodile's like 44, and it's like, okay, well, if he's 44, Dragon maybe in late 40s, early 50s, something like that, then it's possible. But why am I even entertaining this? I think that's just superficial stuff. Crocodile's not Luffy's mom. Luffy did not come out of Crocodile's... But getting to the end here, who do I think Luffy's mother is? I think Luffy's mother has never been revealed yet, and that she's deceased. That's what I personally believe. I think Luffy's mother is no longer alive, and that's involving the interview that Oda did. He directly contradicts that. Well, not directly, because he said Luffy's mom. I think she's still alive. She thinks still alive, so that means that Oda might be still on the cuff about whether or not she is going to be still alive. I think there could be a very powerful flashback there with Luffy's mother, like I said earlier, finding out about his birth and everything. But I just don't see it being like, Luffy stumbles upon his mom someday. and it's like this really tearful reunion or anything. I don't know if that would really work with the story, with Luffy's family. His Luffy's family is very weird. Okay. You know, if Luffy's mother is still alive, I don't think she's a revolutionary. I believe that she might be somewhere out there in the world, but, you know, she would be maybe in the East as well, but Luffy never ran into her. It's just so many things that make me think that she's just not around anymore. And we're might going to get a story involving her, what kind of person she was. We'll get her appearance and her name, the same that we did with Rouge. But her presence is not really all that important to the story. Like, not the same way that, like, Kushina was in the Naruto storyline. I don't think Luffy's mother's going to be that important. I would like to think that she would be a rather beautiful lady, you know, and Oda was just messing with us there. But maybe that's just wishful thinking. And I know that might be kind of a cop-out at the end of this video. Like, he's like, well, what do you think, Tekking? I think that we have never seen her before and that she is dead. I'm like, well, dang it. I was like, hey, I didn't title this video, I know who's Luffy's mom is, or this is what Tekking thinks Luffy's mom is. The video was just supposed to be in general discussing Luffy's mom, different theories I've seen on the internet, SBS questions, translations, interviews. What do you guys think? Comment below. That's what this was. It's honestly a question I've never really thought of all that much. I've thought about it, but I've never, sat down and been like, okay, who's Luffy's mom? I gotta crack the case on this. Because I never really viewed it as a part of the story that's going to be all that important. But who knows? Oda might spin it on its head someday. Next time we see Dragon, maybe when he gathers all of the members of the leaders of the Revolutionary Army together, there will be his wife. You know, and there'll be some explanation on how Ivankov just didn't know. You know, or how it was kept a secret for so long. Who knows? But that's my personal thought. I think she's no longer with us. But what do you guys think? Comment, all that good shit. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking101 signing out. Later.